Hi, it's Chef David, and here I am today making one of my favorite meals. I'm gonna make our homemade family Italian sauce with meatballs and sausage. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how I make my meatballs and what I use to make my sauce. So on the counter here, I'm going to show you all my ingredients that I have laid out, and then we're going to get started. Okay, so of course we need our meatball mix, and I want to thank the folks at Deli and Meat Market store of the North, which is located in Warrensburg, New York. They have it all ready to go, and they got that for me right away. I've got some grated cheese, some eggs, onions and garlic to cut. I have crushed tomatoes today. Sometimes I like to use whole tomatoes, but I have crushed tomatoes. I have tomato paste, some Italian seasoning, salt and pepper, olive oil, and breadcrumbs. So let's get started. The sausage are in the refrigerator, and I'll show you those later on. Okay, the first thing I want to do is get my tomatoes, crushed tomatoes and tomato paste in my big pot, because I'm going to add everything to that as we get going. Now I want to say a shout out to Rachel Ray. This is one of her pots, and I want to say she lives about 10 miles away from here, and unfortunately we heard about her house, and we wish her well in that she gets it rebuilt. So let's get started. So that's one 28-ounce can. That's a second 28-ounce can. And our tomato paste. Now, I'm going to add a container of water to this. Okay, and I'm going to put this on low to start out with. And remember, the secret to Italian sauce is the wooden spoon. A lot of us Italians know this is not only used for stirring the sauce, but when we were bad kids, you know what happened with this wooden spoon. First, I have 1.5 onions. So all I'm doing is scoring it like this, holding it on the end. Okay, so I'm going to get my pan and the rest I'm going to use in my meatballs. So I'm going to have my bowl here that I'm going to use for my meatballs. Okay, so that's my onions. Now I have my garlic. I'm going to do the same thing. Some of this is going to go right in the meatballs, and some is going to go in the sauce directly. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make this a little bit smaller and take some kosher salt. And cut it up a little bit more. If you're going to put it into the meatballs, you want it as small and minced as possible. And the salt makes it a little bit easier to do that. Plus it gives a little bit of extra flavor. I won't have to put as much salt into my meatballs. So I'm going to put a good amount have some for my sauce. That's for my meatballs. Okay, so I'm going to bring my pan back over here. Put that in there. And I'm going to put some olive oil in my pan. Get that going. So let's get the meatballs going. So I have here, I ordered a pound. It's about a pound and a fifth, and they call this meatloaf mix. I asked them to put a pound of beef and a quarter pound of pork and veal. So I don't know, they didn't have that available. They had this, so that's what we've got. All right, next I'm going to put my eggs in. I always like to break my eggs first, make sure they're okay. All right, they look good. Throw those in there. And this is 5 ounces of cheese. You want to put as much cheese as possible. Okay, we're going to put that in there. And we're going to put a bunch of Italian breadcrumbs in there. I'm not even measuring it, it's probably about a cup. Some black pepper. La 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 la. That should be enough. Now I'm not going to put too much salt because I have some with the garlic already. I counted to 7. All right, and then I have some Italian seasoning. This has some oregano, some parsley, some rosemary. You want to have some greens in there. So that's all my seasoning. I got my eggs, I got my cheese, I got my breadcrumbs. Now comes the fun part. Getting it all mixed together. And so you mix it, mix it in the morning, mix it in the afternoon. Here we go. You know, you really just squeeze that and mix it really nicely. You want to get those onions and garlic incorporated in it. Get all that cheese and breadcrumbs all together. You know, if you can, sometimes what we used to use, if we had some day-old bread, you can use that. Make it, if it's stale, it'll hold as a binder just like the breadcrumbs do. But usually it's more convenient to use the breadcrumbs. I hear the garlic and the onions starting to fry next to me. I'm still kind of getting this. Incorporate everything. Okay. I'm going to take a little bit of water. Get that on my hands. Take some ground meat. And you're just going to roll them in your hands like this. If you need some more water on your hands, just do that. And that's the size I like. This one's going to be a little bit smaller. Just roll it like that. Now what we're going to do with these is we're going to fry them first and brown them before we put them in the sauce. And we're going to use the pan that I'm cooking the onions and the garlic in, so that oil will have a little bit of flavor. You can do this, of course, with turkey. I actually, a lot of times will make sauce with either turkey meatballs, or sometimes on Monday through Fridays, to save time, I like to get the Gardein meatballs, which are totally meat-free, because I like to have several meals a week that are meat-free, but every once in a while I want the traditional. And since I was at the real meat market I decided that, hey, I'm going to have some good meatballs and some Italian sausage, and that will last us a while. I'll have to freeze some. Sauce is always something good to have around. It freezes really well, and you know, I always say it's always better the second day because all those flavors get to melt together. But there's nothing like having a good pot of sauce cooking on the stove all day. So there we go. We got all our meatballs all done. So I have a total of 21 meatballs. Okay, our onions are perfect and I'm ready to put them in. They're just lightly browned. The garlic is really brown. So I'm going to put them in our sauce. Just like that. Give it a good stir. Put a little bit, just a tad of olive oil. Put this back up here. And turn it up just a little bit. Now that I'm ready to cook everything. And I'm going to give that a second. Put it up a little bit warmer. And let's get started. So we're just going to start around the edges. Oh, listen to that sizzle. So we're getting them going. We'll let them go for a while. Want them to be nice and brown. And then we'll put them in the sauce, and then I'll fry up the sausage, and we'll be on our way. Okay, I'm going to start turning them. You'll see they get a little bit gray on one side, and they're nice and brown. Let's turn this down a little bit. So there you go. You can see how they're browning for me. A lot of that brown is the cheese and the breadcrumbs. These will also cook in the sauce. So all we're trying to do is get some nice browning there and some nice flavorsome bits. So we're looking forward to that. They're just about ready to go into the sauce. It also solidifies them a little bit so they don't fall apart. So I'm going to start transferring some of these. Okay, so let's get the rest of these in there. Give it a quick stir to my sauce. There's my sausage. So I'm going to put those in while I'm still cooking the remaining meatballs. We're going to wait for those to brown up on us, and then we're going to put them in the sauce and let them simmer for most of the day. I have some nice ravioli I'm going to make tonight. Again, ravioli, you could make it yourself, but it's very readily available at the supermarket in the frozen section. So that is fine. I'm looking forward to a great dinner tonight. I'm ready to put some more of these meatballs into the sauce. You always have to give it a good stir after you add the meat. I'm going to turn this down to low. It's bubbling really nicely. My sausage still need a little bit more time. They're starting to brown really nicely. They will give such a nice flavor to the sauce. So we'll let them go for a little while. The sausages are nice and brown, so I'm transferring them over to the other pot. Just like that. Simple as can be. I'm going to hold my mouth peen so they don't get burnt. Just give that a quick stir. It's going to simmer. I'll come back every half an hour or so and give it a quick stir. And we'll see you right before dinner when I cook the ravioli and make my nice tossed salad. And we'll be all set to eat. Okay, see you in a minute.